So, before we get into my DC Studios exclusive, I want to read you the cope that Mr. John Campion posted on social media. When talking about box office totals, historically ignore anyone who tries to bring if you take inflation into account. Makes the wildly inaccurate assumption that if a certain movie was released today instead of the era it came out in, then it says the 1980s or something like that, it would have sold just as many tickets today as it did back when it was released. This is obviously a ridiculous assumption. No, it's not. Are you trying to tell me that Superman 78 wouldn't have sold as many tickets today as it did back then? Imagine Superman 78 in 2025 was the first superhero movie ever made, because that's how you've got to treat it, right? Are you trying to tell me, John, that Superman 78 wouldn't make $1 billion today? Of course it fucking would. If it was the first ever one. It's an exceptional movie even today, right? So this is cope. This is cope because we shouldn't take, this into account, right? Adjusting for inflation, because, that makes James Gunn's the bestest directors ever's movie look bad. So anything that does that, we've got to soak it up in lies. Remember, domestic. Anyway, so basically he goes on. The movie was released today instead of the era it came out in the 1980s or something like that, that it would have sold just as many tickets today as it did back when it was released. This is obviously a ridiculous assumption. No, it's not. It fails to take into account numerous variables and seismic shifts in the industry and society in general. Variables like fewer people going to the movies today. Fewer people are going to the movies today because of the modern day slop. So if a film like Superman 78 came out and it was the first ever superhero movie, we wouldn't be in that position. If movies were being run, right, if entertainment was being made on the premise it was being made in the 70s, then we wouldn't have fewer people going to fucking movies, John. There's a reason why there's fewer people going to the fucking movies. Anyway, so, 2, ticket prices were cheaper in previous eras, making it easier and more attractive for people to go to theatres. Right, again, because of inflation, by the way, because of the way money was, it was cheaper to buy a ticket, but life was still very expensive. It's like saying things used to cost a penny or a halfpenny, 85 years ago. That was a lot of fucking money back then, right? Do you get me? Again, he's coating things in a way to make them look true, but it's bullshit. This is studio cope. Anyway, so making it easier and more attractive for people to go to the theatres. More competition from a much larger number of films being released today. What competition, my friend? What fucking competition? If a movie's good, people will go and see both 3 times, 4 times the movies, right? Simple as that. This is bullshit as well. The advent of streaming. Streaming is bullshit. Streaming doesn't stop you from going to the cinema if you really want to see a great movie again. And streaming is losing money. We've spoken about this before. Streaming is simply not profitable. Anyway, other competition for disposable income like video games. This is bullshit, Campia. This is bullshit. You are coping, my friend. Anyway, movies have much more shorter theatrical runs today and about 20 others. What? You telling me, right? Because they've got shorter runs, they're making less money. Hang on a minute, this is bullshit. What about the films that do make money, like Jurassic World Rebirth? Exactly, you're coping. Anyway, to take inflation into the equation assumes a movie would have sold just as many tickets today as it did when it first came out. And that is an idiotic assumption. No, it's not an idiotic assumption. Now, with Superman and Man of Steel, we don't have to take inflation into account because Superman isn't going to get close to the 670 fucking million that man has still made. So this is cope. This is bullshit. Every point he makes, I've just taken a fucking cannon and I've shot it fucking down. This man is a bullshitter, he's a studio shill, and it's as simple as that. Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. I am me, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends, wives, and especially your boyfriends and your husbands. A very warm welcome to yet another DCU Daily. And today, what day is it today? Friday. Still hungover, but welcome to Friday's edition of the DCU Daily. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, Snapchat BMouth60, TikTok Mad, let's get it right, Mad Mickey as well. And on Instagram and on Threads, Movies TV Mad X. Right, I have a world exclusive for you. So put your seatbelts on, eat your popcorn. It's something that I've been telling you for a very, very long time. Exclusive. The Gods and Monsters story arc that Gunn said he was doing via every movie has been cancelled at Warner Brothers Discovery and DC Studios. Because Gods and Monsters was never a thing. It was a lie to sell Superman. That's all it was. It was never, ever happening. David Zaslav, at an investor call, a meeting yesterday, made an announcement about how many movies they're going to make. Cheap movies, expensive movies. You shouldn't be making expensive blockbusters. None of you at any studios. You should have a limit of $100 million production budget, right? And a minimal marketing budget. I'm talking 30 million. Mick, that's insane. No, it's not. It can be done. It can be done, especially with the advent of social media. They're spending far too much money on films. And as we've just discussed, with the bullshit that Campy has said, yes, audiences are smaller now that go to theatres because of the slop and the gaslighting of the audience, the bad slop, the creative bankruptcy, and the gaslighting of their own fucking customers. Anyway, so basically, yeah, they should be spending over 100 million. 100 million cap on all production budgets of movies, right? This is an industry that doesn't act like a business. It's overspending, hoping people will go and see their movies. That's not how life and business works. Anyway, let's give this a read. So at an investor call, this is what he said about DC. In film, James Gunn is busy preparing the next installments of his DC super family, including Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow 2026, Clayface 2026, and the next Wonder Woman in addition. The Batman 2 2027, which is nothing to do with Gunn, hopefully, is preparing to begin shooting next spring among several other projects in development. The 10-year vision for the DC Universe also includes an exciting array of television projects, including The Penguin, the upcoming new season of The Peacemaker. Now, look, this is interesting. An exciting array of television projects, including The Penguin. Now, Penguin's already happened. Why is he mentioning The Penguin, right? The upcoming new season of Peacemaker and their debut of Lanterns. So, everyone took this, right? Look at this line, right? In film, James Gunn is busy preparing the next installments of the DC Super family. All that means is the universe of superheroes, right? And all these lists of movies that we already knew about and streaming shows. People took this in meaning that James Gunn's follow-up sequel to Superman is actually going to be a super family movie. Superman, Superwoman, Supergirl. Now, I believe the Superman sequel isn't happening. And they're going to involve Superman in some kind of thing. And he may be writing a super family follow-up to Superman. But this was never the fucking plan, James. What happened to all the films you announced are now on the back burner, that now have been cancelled? So make no mistake, Gods and Monsters has been cancelled, but how can you cancel a thing that was never fucking happening? So Zaslav basically says he's continuing the projects in his super family. But what's interesting, there's not one mention in this quote about the follow-up or the sequel to Superman. Gunn claimed he's already in the middle of writing a follow-up or sequel to Superman that isn't a solo Superman movie. That's what Gunn is saying. But here, there is no fucking mention of a Superman sequel or a follow-up to Superman. Now that is the opposite of what Gunn's been saying, because Gunn's claiming he's writing, at the very least, a follow-up that involves Superman. So where is it? Why isn't it mentioned in this? And it's very interesting. Every fucking publication has taken this to mean that Gunn's follow-up is a super family movie. It may be, but nowhere here in the Zaslav quote is there a situation where Zaslav said, yes, there's a follow-up to Superman, there's a sequel to Superman, and it's a super family movie. We still don't know. And until that's announced, right, I'm saying nothing in this Zaslav quote lends anyone to think that there is a super family movie, that there is a follow-up or sequel to Superman. Because Superman really didn't make enough money to justify a sequel. Now, if you remember, after Man of Steel only making $670 million at the global box office, Warner Brothers became very nervous about Superman, so they said, let's at least throw Batman in there, right? Most popular character in fiction, which he is. The Dark Knight made over $1 billion. Anything with Batman, anything with Joker makes a lot of fucking money. Even the first Suicide Squad movie, because the Joker and Harley were in that movie, did quite well financially. And actually, the first Suicide Squad, despite critics hating it, a lot of fans hating it, made a fucking profit. Something that James Gunn's Superman won't be fucking doing. So it's very, very interesting. So I wanted to make this video to make it clear to you what was said yesterday, despite what all the outlets and publications are saying, and all the kind of bot accounts and the DC accounts that are obviously owned by WB, everything they're saying about the next movie being a super family movie, about this, follow-up or sequel. Gunn's claiming there's a follow-up and sequel that he's in the middle of writing. But Zaslav didn't mention it, despite all the media and all the fans going on about a Superman sequel or a follow-up. There's just no mention of it here. So what the fuck is going on? Gunn's saying one thing, but what was going on at that investor call? It sounds to me that all the future plans have kind of been halted. And Zaslav's gone in there, and apparently the shareholders are very happy. Bullshit. Bullshit. I've been told the investors are not happy at all. Especially the ones who have, the majority shareholding in Warner Brothers Discovery. And that is AT&T. They are not happy bunnies. They're not happy with the box office of Superman. Yes, they admit the domestic is solid and impressive. But as I said yesterday, the movie is simply not going to break even and not going to make any money. And that's why you make movies and TV shows, because it's an entertainment fucking industry. But Warner Brothers Discovery, Zaslav and Gunn and Safran are pretending these companies are a non-profit organisation, as I said yesterday. Breaking news. James Gunn is writing a sequel from Warner Brothers Discovery, a non-profit company, making a sequel or follow-up to a non-profit movie. But there is no follow-up. Gunn's saying there's a follow-up. Gunn's saying he's working on a follow-up, but Zaslav's not mentioning a follow-up. So I believe anything after all the things that have been already announced, like Clayface, etc., and there's no Batman Brave and the Bold announced here, just Batman 2. Right, something very dubious is going on. And sooner rather than later, we're going to find out the truth. I told you, because Superman is not making a profit. They're pretending they're so happy about it. Yay, put the medal on. We did well domestically. But the reality is, this movie flopped. This movie didn't make a profit. Now, to be fair to this movie, it made much more money globally altogether than all the MCU films have done recently in the final DCEU movies, right? Let's be fair to it, right? I think Black Adam probably slightly did better than Superman, by the way. say it's made more than most of the movies have recently, right? Not the Batman, of course. But here's the thing. It still hasn't made a profit. And I told you, there will be a reaction to this movie not making the 700 million plus that it needed to make a profit. So watch this space, ignore your campiers and your big content creators, and focus on the small people like me and others who are actually here to tell you the truth, who are just fans just like you.